everybody. This is the 83 Weeks After Party. We have so much to discuss live tonight with Eric Bischoff. We are talking about Moxley versus Punk on free TV. Punk calling out Adam Page. We got to go back a couple weeks and get all the behind-the-scenes scoop from Starrcast and Ric Flair's last match. If you have a question for Eric Bischoff, you have come to the exact right place tonight. My name is Christy. All of my friends are here. So happy to have the gang back together. Steve Kaufmann, Adam Woods, and George Hermoza are here with me tonight. Hey, guys.
NWO for life.
Woo!
I thought you were gonna introduce me as George motherfucking Hermoza.
Wow. Oh, you did have that request before we got started. So let me not biff it with this one. Also joining us live tonight is Eric Mother Effin Bischoff. You know what? I couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
I'm
Eric,
glad you
how
did.
you doing?
As cool as it is, I don't want to hear it coming from you, Chrissy. I just don't. But Mother Effin is kind of cool, and MF, and then it has the same impact without the, I don't know, the nastiness of it.
Right. Well, as I mentioned tonight, Eric, we have got a lot we want to talk with you about. It's been a few weeks since we've seen you. I want to just start with a general, how you doing? What's been up, man?
I've been good. Last week, I had a WWE crew here for a couple of days early in the week, so that kind of kept me off the grid, so to speak, for about 3 days, really. And then last week, I was excited to talk to you guys. I came out here, went into my studio, got everything all set up, and nothing. Nothing. And yeah, we lost internet here we didn't get it back till about 10 in the morning the next day.
Oh my gosh.
Can we blame the WWE crew, or was this?
No, that was coincidental. That was just me explaining my week. And that week was really busy. But this week, not so much. Kind of chill this week.
Are we going to see whatever you were working with the WWE crew there? Are we going to see that anytime soon?
I think I asked, and I think they don't know for sure. I think they were guessing, hoping probably around January.
Right. Well, we will look out for that. And we have tons of live viewers joining us tonight from all around the world. We want to give them a special hello. I see some of you have your live chats going already. We are definitely going to get to all of those. So thank you for joining us live. And also, we want you guys to give your input on something we're going to kick off the show by talking about tonight. If you tuned in to AEW Dynamite last night, you know that CM Punk will take on Jon Moxley next week. Not on their pay-per-view happening in a couple weeks, but next week live on Dynamite TV in a match that is supposed to unify the AEW World Championship. So, Eric, I know you have some thoughts on this tonight, and I want to ask by first starting to ask you, did you tune in to Dynamite? Because I know that's not something that you do every week.
No, I did not. I did not.
You didn't. So you just get this news flashes across your Twitter this morning that this huge
match
is going to go down on TV?
You get basically every breath that was taken in the ring during the way people cover it now. So you have a pretty good sense of what happened. But I certainly saw the interviews and the clips and the news and the headlines and the interviews that followed. So I have a pretty good sense of what's going on without having seen it. It's pretty basic. It's fundamental, right?
Well,
not complex.
Right, but as someone who over the years has had to answer to putting this match on a pay-per-view or this match on TV, this is certainly something that catches your attention.
Oh, boy, did it ever catch my attention. And we're going to talk about it. But I want to bust the format a little bit here rather than me letting loose and giving you my thoughts.
Which we love.
I want to hear what you guys think first. Because you guys, assuming based on some of the comments that I heard before we went live, you already, one of you for sure, already have a pretty good idea where what my position is on this. So I'm anxious to hear yours. You show me yours first, and I'll show you mine.
All right, Steve, kick it off.
What I noticed on AEW Dynamite last night was they opened with CM Punk. CM Punk calls out Adam Page, which is something no one seemed to have been prepared for. Jon Moxley comes out, and then they billboard a match at All Out. Only for in the middle of the show for them to be like, JK, forget that promo. The match is next week. Just like in a lower third, could have missed it if you weren't watching all the matches.
Yes.
Which, as a viewer of the show, is confusing. And that's where I stand on it.
All right, but let's put the presentation of it all aside for a minute.
Okay.
And let's just focus on good idea, bad idea.
George?
Pass. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
No, and I kind of
Coward stuff.
No, and I kind of half jokingly say that because I want to see the ratings next week.
No. We're not talking about the ratings next week.
But I'm saying it's easy to sit here and say, oh, they should have saved it for pay-per-view. But then if it shows off that it got a killer rating, then they obviously made a good decision. If they do a shitty rating next week, then it's clearly a bad decision.
All right, what's a good rating since that is your thesis?
1,000,005.
What how do you qualify it? What's a good rating?
1,000,005.
Wow.
1.5 million.
So the highest they've ever done?
Yes.
They've never done 1,000,005.
Like
1.25.
All right. Well, you're putting a lot of that would be putting a lot of
I'm just
faith in
saying-
this match.
I'm just saying it's easy to crap on the decision now. But I don't like to be a kind of a cynic. I kind of say, okay, well, they're doing it. There's nothing. Me complaining about it isn't going to change anything about it.
Nor do we expect it would. But we gather here every week and we discuss what's going on in the world of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And you are
G Herm,
more than able to have an opinion that need not be qualified, explained, or used to otherwise cover your ass. So let me put it to you this way, Jorge. You're Tony Khan. You have a choice to make. Put it on TV or not. And you have to make that choice now. You can't wait to see what happens next week. You have to make that choice last night at 5:00. What is it?
This is another cop-out answer. I'm looking forward to it because it feels like they
I didn't ask you if you're looking forward to it. You're fucking Khan. I'm asking you to make a decision for God's sake.
Because
you're not understanding the assignment, G Herm.
No. Because I feel like they have something bigger planned. So if that's the case, then I'm all for it.
Okay. Adam
That
Woods.
is the weakest answer I've ever heard.
Agreed.
It is so weak.
Okay, fine. I love it. I can't wait to see it next week. Is
All
that
right. Hey, take a position. That's all I'm asking. Take a position. You just took one. You like the idea.
So with
Mr.
me,
Woods. Mr. Woods.
With me, honest to goodness, I mean, I saw the promo between Mox and Punk. I actually thought Mox didn't do that great of a job, sorry. But when I saw Eric's tweet, to tweet out this show, I saw Morley, Punk versus Morley, and I was like, holy shit, Val Venus is making a run-in? Fuck yeah, sign me up. That's what I... that's not...
That's a worse answer than mine.
Twitter trolls were all over the typos. Guys, let me tell you something that I noticed in this. Two things. So first of all, as you mentioned, we didn't get the announcement about the match being next week until about halfway through the show. I'm suspicious. Does that mean that they are watching the minute-by-minute reactions that Jon Moxley and CM Punk's interaction in the ring was
you're
getting
moving
and
on
decided
too
that...
fast, you're moving on too fast. I wasn't done with this yet. So Adam, I want to finish up with Adam. So Adam, you're in the same position that I put Jorge in just a few minutes ago. You're Tony Khan. It's 5:00 last night. You have a choice to make: free TV or pay-per-view. What are you going to do?
I'm doing free TV. The reason being is maybe the pay-per-view numbers aren't as great as what we think it is, right? That you're probably going to get more eyeballs to watch this marquee segment with this unification match, of your world title.
Okay. All right. So you're voting to do it. So right now we've got two do-its for TV.
Yeah.
All right.
Team do
Christy,
it.
I'm sorry. Now let's go back to where I so rudely cut you off.
Well, that's all right. I was just saying, the fact that they made this announcement mid-show tells me that maybe they weren't getting the reaction from Jon Moxley and CM Punk's interaction that they had in the ring that they wanted. And maybe they're already, as you said, I was going on to the next thing. Maybe they're already on to the next thing. Maybe Tony Khan thinks he's got to blow off Moxley versus CM Punk because he's not getting the attention that he wants from it. And that they have to build up some other feud in time, take that next week. They have one more Dynamite after this before the pay-per-view to build up another feud, some other championship match for the pay-per-view that people will be more interested in. So I'm already like, are what you planned on doing not working? And another thing about this being on TV versus on the pay-per-view is that the ratings have been decreasing every week. shall we say. And so I think that you can still get your go out of this on TV and on the pay-per-view by having something happen next week. Maybe the match is slated to go and everybody gets involved, or there are a million creative ways to get out of actually having the match next week and still doing it on the pay-per-view. So you know what? I like that they have announced that the match is going to be next week because I think it gives them a lot of playroom.
This was fun. This is fun. So Christy, so it's 3 for 3 rather than saving it for pay-per-view because that's where the money is. All three of you, for different reasons, are all for putting it on free TV.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? So we're
ourselves.
All right. So I'm not going to fuck around with this anymore because it's already been more fun than I thought it would be. But I know everybody thinks I was going to crap on this, right?
Yes.
But by the way, did I see CM Punk? Did I type versus Morley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what an idiot! For God's sake! I get
That's
so
that
excited. I
autocorrect
said,
error.
I'm all
That's
thumbs. I'm literally doing that on my phone.
Twitter fingers Eric Bischoff. My goodness. Wow.
All right. So anyway, no, I'm for it. I think, look, for the same reason that I was crucified when I made the decision to put Goldberg and Hogan on free TV instead of pay-per-view, Dave Meltzer and the entire community just, oh my God, he's such a horrible businessman. It's the demise of WCW. They're so desperate for ratings. Bischoff scared to death of losing his blah, 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 fucking blah. That's all I've heard for years. And now it's like, oh, well, that's cool. He's doing it. Yeah. And by the way, I think he should do it because, as I was about to say, for the same reason that I did it, which was I was a television company. Yes, pay-per-view was an important part of the bottom line, but guess what was more important to Turner Broadcasting than my individual bottom line? Television ratings. And the ratings for the network was a priority for the network over WCW's bottom line as a division. So I made the decision that I had been crucified for by decades from the dirt sheet wrestling community, led by Dave Meltzer, for the same reason I think Tony should do it. And I'm glad he's doing it because first and foremost, we're a television company. Look at the big picture here. Discovery's making decisions about where they're going in 2024. You got to serve your client. Yes, you've got to serve your bottom line, but you also have to serve your client. And Turner Discovery is Tony Khan's client, customer. Keep them happy, first and foremost. And I'm glad he made the decision to do it that way. To do otherwise, I think would have been a mistake. It would have been a telling mistake, in my opinion. And I agree with you a lot, Christy, and George too, and Adam, because a lot of you, or three of you, kind of said a lot of the same things. Is let's see where this goes. Now, the cool thing is this match had a built-in backstory. Punk's injury, he's out, interim champion. It's kind of like kissing your cousin, and it's an issue. So you got a built-in, so it didn't need a lot of buildup. Normally I would scream bloody murder to just announce a match like that short term, but this has got a built-in backstory. So I think the spontaneity of it is kind of cool. I think the fact from a strategic perspective, I think it's the absolute right thing to do under the current circumstances, vis-a-vis Discovery and contracts and looking into the future and all that. And I think creatively, there's a lot of room to play here, folks. A lot of room to play. Now, that's assuming some things. That's assuming there's a plan. It's assuming there's a compelling story going forward, to Christy's point, and taking advantage of this and actually building up to something even bigger next time around. There's a lot of potential on the table. A lot of it. Now, let's see what happens. But I am more optimistic than pessimistic.
Eric, how would you feel if it went down how Rajiv says, which is a time limit draw for a taste, and then we see the finish on the pay-per-view? Would you think that's a cop-out, or would you think that's good storytelling?
I guess it depends how it's done. If it's done really, really well in like a 3-layered finish or 3-layered non-finish in this case, that really interested me because it was something new and different and entertaining that I didn't see coming. So if there's some real depth to the finish or non-finish, wouldn't bother me a bit. But if it's, been there, done that, seen that one before, or something that you can at least kind of in your mind predict, or at least not be surprised by, then I would say you'll probably get some blowback.
I love your optimism because, I mean, in that scenario, we saw with Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson's first crack at the AEW World title, and they did it. And I don't even remember, so much wrestling has happened since then. I don't even know what the conclusion was, but I don't know if I was clamoring for that a second time, but that's just me. I mean, you seem to be a little bit more optimistic than I, but I don't.
Well, I mean, look, and I am, because I know I've got this rap for being Eric Bischoff hates Tony Khan, Eric Bischoff hates AEW, whatever. That's not true. I actually want to see them succeed. I've just been fairly disappointed now for the last 6 or 8 months on a number of different levels, and I've kind of lost my optimism. And but deep down inside, I want it to work. I want to be proven wrong. I want them to embrace a strategy and an approach creatively that is going to grow their audience and ensure their future and beyond. But there's it's a big palette right now. It's a big white palette, and there's a lot of colors, right, that you can paint this picture with where they are right now today. And it could be really good because, and here's why. This is where Punk being injured could actually be a good thing. Because now he's been off for a while, right? There's anticipation built in. It's just there. They didn't have to create it vis-a-vis a story. It's there. We haven't seen him go.
Right.
And absence makes a heart grow fonder. We know that. The absence makes a heart grow fonder factor is something that I talked about in my first book, Controversy Creates Cash, the prequel to Grateful. BischoffBook.com. Get an autographed copy today. Don't wait. Do it now. I want to see it work, man. Like I said, the colors are all there right now. I've been disappointed. There's some sketchy shit going on in terms of, the Punk go into business for himself and, all the BS drama behind that. I don't know if any of it's true. I hope it's all part of a bigger plan. I hope that maybe there's I'm not a fan of, 3-way matches, but notice I didn't say 3 ways, but oh my God. I'm not a fan of that type of setup normally, that type of match. However, if this is if this was not as spontaneous and, off the rails as it appears to be in social media, then I think it could be really cool. But that's a little bit like the MGF thing. I thought the same thing. Man, if this is part of a bigger plan, this is going to be awesome. I mean, my optometer was pegged at 10. Couldn't even see the needle. It was buried so deep because I thought, there's something good going on here. I can almost smell what the MJF is cooking, but only to be disappointed. Now, is that what we're going to see here? I hope not.
I think we're going to see MJF come in.
Okay,
that would get me excited. Holy smokes. I'd be a huge fan.
Lil Jimmy does think so as well, but let's talk a little bit about Hangman Adam Page. So, Eric, are you saying that CM Punk calling out Hangman before he got into anything with Moxley, that didn't water down the CM Moxley stuff for you? It made it more
I'm not
interesting?
saying anything. I'm not judging it on its quality. All I'm saying is that because it happened, I'm optimistic that it happened for a reason that's part of a bigger plan. And if it is, meaning if it was set up and it's creative and we're going to see how that plays out in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 weeks, I don't care. If we see that as a part of the arc, I'm all for it. On the other hand, if it was just Punk going into business for himself, the way everybody wants you to believe on social media, then I just think there's bigger issues.
Yes, Lucifer wants to know if we're sure that CM Punk is even going to show up next week. So you saw those reports as well, Eric, that he is reportedly unhappy, so much so that he may quit the company.
I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And I hope I'm right. I hope this is part of a creative, maybe he's turning heel. I don't even know right now because I don't watch it. Simple question. Heel, Moxley, not Morley. Who's the heel? Who's the babyface?
That's a problem.
It's kind of babyface, and I think CM.
Kinda,
I think CM.
Kinda,
but I think
kinda.
CM.
It's not really babyface. It's kinda. What do you mean by kinda? Like neither one of them are really baby faces, but they kinda are.
Both of them get a crowd reaction, and CM Punk is trying subtly to get booed by the fans, but he has too much goodwill with the fans for the majority of them to boo him. So his subtle, and I'm reading it as a subtle intention, CM Punk's subtle intention is to gain more boos than Jon Moxley. But people like him to...
And maybe this is an interesting, maybe that's why the social media chatter... and I say this because one of the first things I noticed was Meltzer early in the day, kind of positioning this as a shoot. All right. Well, let's see. Because if it's not, that indicates to me just how far down the tubes Meltzer has gone, because he's actively trying to promote fiction on behalf of reporting on AEW. But I'd be shocked if that wasn't the case. And I hope that it is, because if Punk is trying to really become a heel, but doing it in a slow turn, kind of subtler, organic way, which I'd be excited about that idea, then this is just part of a plan. And the whole, is he going to quit? Is he not going to quit? Is he angry? Who hates him backstage? All that is just a bunch of intentional, creative chatter designed to help support what he's trying to do. I hope that that's the case. I'll be impressed if it is. If it's not...
I hope so too. He sure as hell ran down Jon Moxley a couple different times on the opening segment last night. And I'm hoping that was some form of scripted for him to make Jon Moxley more endearing. My worry is that the fans sided with Punk and turned on Moxley.
Yeah, and I guess that's now I did see a lot of the interview, and I thought it was great.
Oh, it was great television
as a single piece of work, without trying to figure out where it fits in a story and who's the babyface and who's the heel and what's the arc, because I hadn't been watching it. But just as a performance, I thought it was really good in terms of its delivery. But I was a little lost. That's why I asked the question, honestly, and admitting that I don't watch the show enough to know. I'm trying to figure out, if you're a wrestling fan at home and you're not a dirt sheet wrestling fan, if you just love what most people love. By the way, did you see what Sylvester Stallone said about professional wrestling today? I retweeted it. So cool. It's the drama. And that's why most people really watch wrestling. It's a fast-paced, high-action physical drama. But if there's no drama, because you're not really pulling for one or the other, and you're not invested emotionally, and you just want to see two guys beat the shit out of each other, But like I said, if Punk is slowly, organically becoming a heel, and we're starting to see that turn up, and all this backstage drama that people are trying to convince you is real, isn't, and this is part of a bigger plan, I'll send a bouquet of roses to Tony Khan myself.
Yeah,
Well,
Market 2432.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was, Punk's rebuttal and the way that he approached things. I thought that was Punk being Punk. I've only been around him one time in my life in person, but various interviews and whatever, that's just Punk being Punk. He's got like a smart alecky, persona to him. And Moxley there was a point where he referenced like CM Punk's pipe bomb and whatever, and how it's like a dud or something like that. But it like Punk had to slip something in to save the segment. I thought that's the way that I saw it in clip form, but I didn't think Mox actually looks not like a main event player in my book because of last night's promo. It might have been a slip up, but his stock is dropped in my opinion.
We'll find out. I'm interested. This has made me interested, which is more than I can say about much that I've seen lately. So I'm or been made aware of. Now I'm going to watch. I did tape the show, by the way. I do tape the show because occasionally I get some time and I can go back and watch portions of something that happened last week. But I probably will look much more closely at it now. But I am really interested in seeing what they do next week. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting for all of us, right? Because I think we're all looking at next week as, okay, if this Punk, acquisition was everything it was cracked up to be, we're going to find out next week, right? I mean, if you look at this week's rating was less than last year's rating year to date.
Yes, they pulled 957,000 viewers this week.
And last year, I think it was 979,000 with a 0.35 in the demo versus a 0.30 in the demo this week. So exactly a year ago, which was 1 week before Punk debuted, Punk and Moxley, or I don't know, was Moxley there this time last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so Punk and everybody that came with him, but the focus was on Punk. They've been there now for 300 and however many. They've been there. Next week it'll be a full year. So last year at this time, they did better ratings without Punk than they did with Punk's big return.
Ouch, man.
Which is why I'm hoping that there's a whole lot of creative strategy behind these kind of seemingly disparate points of data that we're looking at. Mostly the page thing.
Although, as someone who produced TV, it's an old adage I've heard a lot, which is your rating that week is usually based on what you did on the show before.
No, that's true.
That not okay?
No, that's true, and I'm a firm believer in it. I always used to get a big kick when I read a lot of the crap that was being written on a weekly basis about Nitro and Raw at the time. This show, it proves that this was a bad idea because the show only did this rating. A lot of the times, if you're writing episodic TV, you're putting something out there this week and you're going to see if it's working next week. You're not going to see it in that moment. If there's a story or an angle or something that you're building, you're not going to see it in the opening act. You're going to see it at the end of that act, whether that's next week or 3 weeks later. So I'm with you on that. I agree. Can't read too much into a rating. Although, how much promotion was Punk's big return given? Did they promote it last week on television?
No,
Punk,
not at all.
Well, Punk
That's
showed
weird.
It was supposed to be like a surprise return.
Well, didn't Punk show up after the main
He
event
just
last
ran
week?
in.
Yeah.
he
Punk
made
showed
it
up
in
on
and
TV
then
last week.
It wasn't advertised. It wasn't like, hey, the big return of CM Punk. It was like, the surprise return of CM Punk. I thought he was going to be injured till September, October.
No, when. So I'm asking you on last week's show, was there a statement on last week's show that Punk was going to be returning next week?
No.
Nope.
Well, that's weird, don't you think?
Yeah. CM Punk physically showed up at the end of last week's show, but then there was nothing saying where he is and what he's doing.
Okay, so he teased, right?
Yes.
He showed up, that wet everybody's whistle, but there wasn't a hard promotion. Okay.
And then next week we're getting a really hard promotion.
So next week. But there was a lot of promotion on social media, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll see. Let's see what happens next week. It's going to be really interesting. And for the record, I hope they do a 1.3 or a 1.4 million.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
So I mean, this obviously you mentioned it in your tweet, but a lot of Goldberg Hogan vibes. But like, do you think the comparison? I'm not saying it to be a dick, but I'm saying like, do you think? And I'm actually going to say, do you think the comparison is a little unfair? Do you think it's just a lot of like apples and oranges? Because you have on one hand, Goldberg and Hogan are way bigger stars than Moxley and Punk, and
Not according to CM Punk.
Yeah, right. And also,
Did you read his comment, by the way, about being a bigger deal to AEW than Nash? And although we're talking about Nash and Hall in his comment,
and also too, you guys had a stadium to fill up. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe like if how many number of tickets sold between Thursday and Monday. I'm sure it was a lot. I mean, it feels like that was a big announcement. And I'm saying like Punk and Moxley isn't even in the biggest arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Like,
it has nothing to do with television ratings, though. Who cares?
But I mean, you guys still made a good gate from that Georgia Dome show, didn't you?
Doesn't matter. We're not talking about gate. We're not talking about comparing revenues. We're talking about a TV or a creative strategy.
As an outsider, if there were ever a week for AEW to do 1.2, 1.3 million, it's probably in the next 3 weeks. Am I wrong to think that?
I hope they do. I mean, I think if there's any chance of them breaking into that 1, 2, 1, 3 category, it's off of what they did last night. I don't. And maybe something to the point that Christy laid out earlier. Maybe if that's the strategy, they're going to do well next week, but they're going to be able to do something at the pay-per-view that's even hotter. That's going to carry over into the next week of TV and maybe then crack it again. But I think that's being really optimistic given what we've seen over the last 12 months.
I guess I was saying because of the larger forces at play. Like Warner Brothers is canceling a whole Batwoman movie just to save money on their taxes. That in the grand scheme of that, a wrestling show, like everything could be on the chopping block from a corporate strategy.
I'll be honest with you here. I am probably more convinced than most anybody that's not in the company. AEW is going to be fine.
Oh.
AEW is going to be fine. I don't think now, are they going to get a huge increase? I don't know. I'm not in the business. Do I think they're going to be on the chopping block? I don't think they are. And I think in the weeks and months and maybe it'll take to the end of the year, you're going to see indications. Here's what I'll be looking for. Here's my indicator. At the upfronts, after the first of the year, how prevalent is AEW being promoted to advertisers during the upfronts?
They got nothing at the last upfronts.
Right.
Nothing.
Let's see what they get at the next upfronts, because there's a new team in town now. There's a whole new company in place that's calling the shots. I think that'll be one of, if not the biggest indicator of what's going to happen in 2024. I think it's going to be one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest. If you start seeing more promotion across the networks, just random commercials, promotion, and you start seeing more and more and more, that's a good sign. If you start seeing any of their ancillary programming start getting greenlit, that's another good sign. But I think everybody's reading the headlines and they're trying to connect dots that they don't really understand. It's a little bit like me trying to take a car engine apart. And I basically know how the shit works, but you don't want me near a wrench, right? That's basically the internet wrestling community. They kind of understand how it works, but they really don't. I think they're going to be fine. I really do. And everybody thinks, because this is where I was going, oh, the Discovery's coming in, the Batgirl, whatever that movie was that got killed. I don't think that has anything to do with anything other than making good branding decisions. The movie, from everything that I've read about that and how the process unfolded, the movie just sucked so bad that Warner Brothers was afraid it would hurt the brand for future business. It wasn't necessarily about cutting costs. It was about not killing off a brand. with a movie that was so bad it would become the butt of every joke for the next 20 years. I think they're going to be fine. And by the way, all that cost cutting, to me, that's a good sign, because you can't get cheaper programming than professional wrestling that draws a number.
Right.
It's really, really inexpensive programming compared to even, reality shows. Reality shows, you could do them real down and dirty, grunge level cheap for $350,000 an episode. On the bottom end, a lot of the better ones are probably in that 700 to 900, maybe $1 million category. But on a week in, week out basis, wrestling provides some pretty dependable ratings for what comparatively is a budget price.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, we have really enjoyed talking this all out with you, Eric, and we've gotten some great comments from all of our live viewers here, guys. We want you to know we're going to get to all of your super chats as well. We've got some from last week. We definitely want to go here with Eric. We've got some time left tonight. Good Day asked, did Eric talk about Ric Flair's last match? We really want to pick your brain on Starrcast weekend, Eric, the roast of Ric Flair. Let's start there. How did you feel your roasting went over at the roast of Ric Flair? How'd you do?
I sucked.
No.
I was disappointed. I felt okay when I was up there, but then I watched it back and I wasn't good. And I know why. I was so concerned about, I was told I had 8 minutes, right? So I wrote my stuff. I wrote my bit to be, and I rehearsed it. I, ran through it and I timed it and all that. And it was 8 minutes is what I went in here with. Well, some of the comedians, Earl Skakel in particular, who I worked with, said, look, I know you've done a lot of stuff on camera and you've been out there in front of thousands of people and you're a pro, blah, 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 blah. But this is going to be different for you. So remember to slow down. And I said, Earl, I used to coach people to do the exact, I'm well aware. And I said to him, I said, look, I can't promise that evil bastard isn't going to sneak up behind me and get me, but at least I know he's there. So I'll be fine in terms of rushing. And so I went out there, and in my attempt not to rush, I was a little slow. My delivery was just not where it needed to be. And then on top of it, about halfway through, I started getting wrapped because other things went over. So I only got about half my stuff out. But it was fun.
I believe you were like third or fourth from the end, too.
Yeah, well, that's why I got the Iggy.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, too. I was going to call a card and say, hey, look, can I, I'm the oldest one up here. So can I, be second or third? Because I knew that would be happening. That's why you don't want to, when you're the last match, guess what? Right. 6 other people be ahead of you screwed up, and your 12-minute match is now 3 minutes. So I knew it could happen. But anyway, it was fun, though. I had a blast doing it. Because I love doing something I've never done before. And let me tell you, gave me a whole new appreciation for stand-up comics. And I've always been fascinated and appreciated them because it is an art that I don't understand. But trying to do it, I understand just how much I don't understand. Know what you don't know.
Did anyone take it too far? Were there any uncomfortable moments?
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of those.
Oh.
There were a lot of those. And here's the weird part. You're sitting up there, and, this comedian's up there trying to entertain and make people laugh. But some of it was like like hit the bone, cut through the flesh, right into the bone. And you want to laugh to support your friend, the comedian, kind of be up there and inspire the audience to maybe chuckle. So you want to laugh, but in my mind, like some of the stuff he was saying about Tori, I was like, at one point I leaned over and says, Tori, I'm so sorry, but that's some funny shit. But I'm sorry, I feel horrible, but I'm laughing. But it is funny.
She seems like a good sport.
She was, and Vicky too. Vicky Guerrero, God bless her. She was a sweetheart. Just with some of the stuff said about her, like, oh my God.
I feel like Vicky was the second most attacked person on the dais other than Rick.
And I don't get that because she's the sweetest human being that I've met in the wrestling business, maybe even outside. She's the nicest person in the world. And I don't know how anybody would, how do those ideas even get into your head about her? Because she's too nice.
That means she played a great heel.
The Vince McMahon joke that she made was hilarious. I've watched that back several times.
Oh, I can't even remember it. What was it?
It was I can only remember the punchline, but the punchline about Vince McMahon retired, but there was a whole setup to it. But she told it perfectly. But that was
I'll have to go back and watch.
Yeah,
I like her a lot. She cracks me up.
Well, speaking of Earl, I've been with him and Eddie Torres on their Comedy Store Wrestling podcast the last couple of weeks, and he wrote jokes for you and DDP, and he was like, I think my jokes were too dark for Bischoff and DDP. What is that true?
No, he gave me a lot of good jokes. Hey, and next week's show, I'll walk through them. The original list he gave me.
Hell yeah.
And I think he gave me like 10 or 12, but he also wanted me to tell a story. So I had to tell a DDP story and I had to tell a Ric Flair story, which in 8 minutes really only left me, room for 2 or 3 jokes. It was a question of just picking the ones that I thought I could deliver the best. But no, they weren't too dark at all.
All right.
With that said,
go ahead, George.
I was going to mention, with that said, will you ever agree to take part of the roast of Eric Bischoff?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Was it a little much?
No, it's not that. I mean, what could anybody say about me that hasn't already been said, And if they can figure out a way to say it, if they can figure out a way to say something that's been said a million times, but make it funny, I'm all in. It's not that. I don't know. I'm just I'm thinking about what I want to do over the next rest of my life and how much I want to do those kind of events going forward. I want to do really good quality. Like, that was a great quality event. That was well produced. It was fun. It was organized, especially for the first one. There was so many things I can say that are good about it. But if I'm going to do something like that, it would have to be, and whether it was somebody roasting me or even me being a part of somebody else's roast, I wouldn't want to do something less than that. Let's put it that way. So if it was, on that level, sure. But if it was, showing up at a local VFW for an Eric Bischoff roast, I don't know. I don't think so.
So we're saying it's frame and scale.
Yeah.
If Starrcast ever runs Las Vegas again, and we can be, let's say, the main room in Caesars, roast of Eric Bischoff.
I'm not going that far. I'd be anything close to what we saw at Starrcast. But I want them to be well produced and fun.
Well, let's take a moment here for a joke. Thank you, Mick Mac, for the super chat. He says, my supermarket got robbed last night. They stole 2 pallets of Red Bull. I don't know how they sleep at night. But
That's too close to my joke. Too close to my joke that I mentioned like 6 months ago.
All right. Well, how about Ric Flair's last match, Eric? We didn't see you on camera. As far as I noticed, where were you while that was going down?
I was backstage looking through curtains.
Oh.
You guys know that. I mean, I felt awkward being there in a way because I didn't have a role. I was just hanging around backstage.
Yeah, but that could be said for a lot of the people that were there watching.
Yeah, but I'm weird that way. I don't know, man. I was not uncomfortable, but I just wanted to be kind of off by myself and just watching the whole thing through a curtain. I didn't want to be out there in the arena. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I wanted to see Rick. I was close by when he walked out. I wanted to see the reaction. I watched most of the match, and I'm also going to be honest with you. I know Rick had the exact kind of match that Rick wanted to have, but I wrestled, no pun intended, with the way I remember watching Rick, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. And then seeing Rick that night. And I know why he was doing it. I was so excited for him. But there was a part of me that I just didn't want to see him take any bumps. Not because I was afraid. I knew he was going to be fine. It wasn't that. It's just like, no, man, I want to see Ric Flair go in there and kick somebody's ass. I want to see people bumping all night for him. I wasn't looking for a great match. I was looking for a great Ric Flair night. And I just want to see him beating ass. I didn't want to see him all bloodied. I know that's what Rick wanted. And this is just a subjective, artistic thing. But I just want to see Ric Flair whooping ass and figure four and wooing and having as much fun as possible and not getting his ass beat half to death.
I was comparing it to being like a fan of the home team in any sporting event. Like, I'm an Eagles fan, and if I'm going to go back to Philadelphia and watch the Eagles, what I don't want to watch is a 2020 double overtime nail biter. Like, I just want to watch them score and score and score, and just everyone's having a great time. That I think, to your point, we wanted a celebration of Ric Flair. And that's what a celebration of Ric Flair could have been.
No, and again, and that's why I'm torn, and I was so supportive of this, and still am, by the way. I'm thrilled for Rick because I think he was thrilled. And that's all that matters, actually. My opinion as a wrestling fan doesn't really matter at all. But look, one of the listeners just said something that I agree with. It was a major accomplishment for Rick, considering he was on his deathbed a year ago. Absolutely. And it was important to Rick. Beyond that, even if he wouldn't have had that horrible scare, it was still something that was really important to Rick. And I wanted something that was important to Rick to be attainable for Rick, and it was. And I'm happy for that. It's just the style of match, that's all. But that's just me. It's just doesn't matter.
Were there any other matches on the card that stood out to you?
Not really. I mean, they were all good. Nothing stood out to me as being fantastic. I was just having fun. You know, one of the most, for me, this is going to sound so silly to anybody else, but when I saw Derek Sabato, who's a part of our team here, as a referee, I went, what? And then, and I was standing right at the edge of the stage. So when he came back, I could see him, and I'm close enough to look in his eyes, and I saw how much fun he was having. He was having a blast, and I thought, that's what this thing is about. Everybody should be having fun. This is really a big, huge celebration for Ric Flair with some wrestling attached. Instead of my expectation wasn't to see a lot of great wrestling matches. My expectation was to go and see a celebration, and that's what this was. And there happened to be some great wrestling matches, but that's not what I was looking for.
Also, shout out to Palm Water Dave, got to count the 3.
Yes. And see, that kind of stuff just makes me happy. It just makes me smile. See, these are people, it's like, Lauren Yaffe on our Ad Free Shows team. First met her, she's a fan. Part of the family, subscriber. Did a little thing with her on camera. Something just told me about this lady has some potential. Invited her to do some stuff on Ad Free. She started doing it and doing a really good job. She's got a job working for a TV station. That shit.
Wow, I didn't know that. Congratulations, Lauren.
that shit makes me happy. And when I see part of our network and our family over at Ad Free Shows and the Starrcast team having as much fun as they were having, trust me, there were some people that were not having too much fun. But that's part of promotion, right? Yeah. When the wheels are falling off all over the place and you got to run and put them back on as quick as you can, that's just part of live TV. But seeing everybody having a blast, that was the best part of it for me.
I was screaming at a printer that morning. That was my... They're like, Steve, we need you there to print formats, and then the printer wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi, and we didn't have a plug for it, and that was how the morning started for me.
Isn't that fun?
Right?
Isn't that just so much fun?
Eric, we had a couple super chats from last week that we want to make sure to get to.
And if we need to go long tonight, we can, by the way.
Perfect. Mick Mac, did Pat Tanaka really knock your teeth out as per Briscoe and Bradshaw's podcast with Greg Gagne?
I haven't seen that. Is that what he said?
Yes.
I think yes.
Yes.
I have to go back and look at that. I don't.
Fair.
You don't remember getting your teeth knocked out?
No.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I do remember getting my teeth knocked out, but
Okay.
I was in Pittsburgh when I was about, I don't know, 14, 15. I was nowhere in sight, so I don't know.
Different story.
Question 2, Haverkamp Truth. Nash said this week that he once told you while he was in WCW that one day you're going to work with Vince McMahon. What was your reaction, and did you believe him?
Yeah, he did. And I mean, I took it as a compliment, but I didn't take it seriously because I couldn't imagine ever, when he said it, I couldn't imagine ever wanting to or being in a position to be able to work for WWE. Keep in mind, I was kind of busy kicking Vince McMahon's ass. So,
Well, yeah. You were president of WCW at the time he told you.
yeah.
So that it's like telling it's like telling someone what they're going to do 5 years from now. It's like, I'm a little focused on what I'm doing right now.
Especially if what you're doing right now is kicking the other person's ass and somebody saying, "No, you're going to go to work for him." Well, first of all, why would I want to?
And maybe
no,
he
I-
was going to come work for you at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
come
No,
on.
it was a compliment, is what it was,
Yeah.
and that's the way I took it. I didn't think about it too much beyond that.
I believe the quote Nash said was specifically, one day you're gonna wind up working for Vince McMahon and you're gonna see how his machine works, and you're gonna feel even more accomplished for having beat him for as long as you beat him.
Yeah, that was the other. That was like one of those compliments that when somebody gives it to you, you think about it the next day and you go, "Well, fuck."
Wait, he said I'm ultimately gonna work for him though. Nicholas Blake, no question tonight. Just want to say thank you, Eric, for everything you've done in the business. You're the best. Thank you,
Aw,
Nicholas
we
Blake.
love-
You're with us
Thank
tonight.
you.
We love Nicholas.
And Ibs on Aurora sent me a video message, and we're trying to do less WWE videos. So I screenshotted the important bits. He wants to know where this championship ring that you gave to Hulk Hogan is.
Ooh.
I have no idea.
I'm
would
going to say Hogan's
if-
Beach Shop until we find out otherwise.
Yeah, either that or Sonny Ono has it stashed away somewhere. That guy is a pack rat. He is a pack rat. And you know what? Sonny comes by it naturally because the first time I ever went to Japan, actually it was the first time I took Lori with me to Japan. Sonny also brought his wife Julie. And we were there on business, but with our wives. And Sonny's uncle lived just outside of Tokyo. And one afternoon, Sonny said, "Let's go see my aunt and uncle. I'd like to introduce you." So we did what we had to do to get where we had to go. And it was just the coolest thing, man. It was like a traditional, middle class Japanese home, single family home, but very, very traditional. And his uncle didn't speak any English. Huge, interesting story about his uncle. I'm not going to go into it here. We'll be here all night. But fascinating. Anyway, I find out that his uncle basically buys and sells stuff at flea markets and collects things and then sells them. And he showed me all the stuff, watches. And I think he gave me, he did. He gave me a watch. He gave Lori something really nice. But this is all stuff that he bartered in flea market. Basically his version of eBay before eBay. And that's how he made his living. And that's exactly, now all of a sudden, every time I turn around, Sonny's got something else for sale on his eBay store. He's been collecting shit from WCW since the first day he walked through the door. So I'd bet my money that Sonny has it.
Asked
Sonny
and answered.
Olson has an eBay store? Oh, I need links.
Let's get to this one from Madden's Elite Podcast. A lot of our live chatters are asking for your opinion on this, Eric. He says, very curious to hear your thoughts on how you feel Triple H is doing as the head of creative over at WWE.
Haven't sat down and watched an entire show, but I have gone back and watched certain segments and things that I've read about or heard about. Here's what I think. This is really from a distance. I think you're going to see a lot. And it's funny because I said all this stuff before we saw his first episode. I think you're going to see a loosening up of interviews. We're seeing it. I think we're seeing more of the talents and less of word for word for word. I'm excited about that. I think we're going to see more episodic structure and format, which is going to change everything. Not overnight, but all of us a year from now, if I'm not being overly optimistic, and if the little bit that I have seen so far continues and is consistent, things are going to be a lot different a year from now than they are today in terms of what we talk about with regard to WWE. We're going to be talking a lot more about stories and in a positive way, because wrestling needs to be episodic TV.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be a week by week by week car crash with a little bit of stuff that people call story in between. We've got to get to know the talent. You've got to give them a little room to breathe and be themselves in the dialogue, in the backstage promos or in-ring promos. You got to let them be the talent and teach them how to be if they're not. And I think that's what you're going to see out of Triple H. Look, Triple H, I said this before, and I think we're seeing it. Triple H and Stephanie both have been in that creative position under Vince McMahon. They were mentored, and they learned a lot. But they also learned what wasn't working under Vince McMahon because they were on the receiving end of it. And I think you're going to see some of those challenges that Vince McMahon's way of doing creative, now that that's no longer the brick wall that it has been, I think you're going to see fresh performances. I think you're going to see fresher ideas and creative and story. And I think you're going to see a looser format, all of which is going to make live TV feel more like live TV.
Exciting stuff. Here's a great one from 82 Atlantic, one of those hypotheticals that you love so much. Eric wants to know, do you think you could have successfully booked a heel turn for Rey Mysterio and or John Cena if you had the chance to run WWE creative during the early 2000s and 2010?
No, because I suck. I'm just saving some of the
That's
trolls.
exactly what we were all thinking.
I'm just saving some of the trolls the effort here, right? Hell, I don't know. That's why I don't like hypotheticals. I don't even remember. No, I don't know. I can't answer it. Do I think if I was given that task to try to come up with some ideas, I think I could have come up with some ideas. Would they have worked? Hell, I don't know.
Also, that question's a little hypothetical because it's the equivalent to, do you think you could drive across country in someone else's car? Because they didn't say Vince steps down and you're in charge. They said you have to work with him and then try to achieve these things.
Oh, no, if that's the case, I guarantee you I couldn't have.
No.
I mean, you booked a
right.
successful Hogan heel turn.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, but I was a one-trick pony.
Sir.
I was just a one-trick pony.
All right. Well, here's a more fun hypothetical, Eric, from J Turbo. If you had somehow become a full-time in-ring wrestler, what wrestlers would you be the most similar to in terms of gimmick and style? Anybody you think you would have modeled yourself
Ivan
after?
Putski.
Ooh.
Ivan Putski. Go back and watch Ivan Putski.
He was a favorite of yours as a kid, right?
Yeah, but I could have done what he did. If I could have gotten big, and believable looking in the ring, which is another conversation. But yeah, I liked Ivan Putski.
Justin Vick says Red Rooster.
Yeah, fuck you, Justin.
We love you, Justin. All right, we got one more super chat here, Eric, and then we are going to go to our special private after party for our ad-free show's top guys. This one comes from Fist Cover, and it's something that everybody can find useful. Wants to know, Eric, can you offer your best interview advice? Substantial pay increase to over $100K with pension if they choose me. Holy moly, Fist Cover, we have got our fingers crossed for you. Eric, you got some advice for him?
Just be yourself. Walk in there 100% confident. Imagine that you've already got the job and you're just going through the motions. That decision has already been made, Fist Cover. You have that job. You just have to go through the process to get the keys to the office. So it's already done. Decision's already made. Just go in there, have fun, be yourself, look whoever it is in the eye, and don't bullshit yourself. Don't bullshit them. You'll be just fine.
Love that. Best of luck to you, Fist Cover. And we want to thank everybody who's tuned in live tonight. We got one more, all from Ken. We got to offer a little well wishes to Ken's pitbull Sage, who's recovering from a dental procedure. Nobody likes that, especially if you don't understand.
I just had a dental procedure a couple hours ago.
So you understand what Sage is going through.
Yeah, I had a tooth pulled and then an implant put in there, and they're going to have to crown it. That was like 3 hours ago. I was sitting in the dentist chair going, The Novocaine just wore off about 45 minutes ago. I found it convenient if I do my film.
You're in a boat with the best of them, Sage, and we wish you all the best in your recovery. We want to thank everybody who's tuned in live on the 83 Weeks channel tonight. Make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell so you get notified every time we go live. We do this Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And if you are an ad-free show subscriber, stay tuned because we have a little more and you can ask Eric some more questions if you would like. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Take care.
Woo.
Stay tuned, ad-free shows.
Is that a ripoff of Walking on Sunshine?
Probably.
Yeah. You've seen in the waves.